Well, hey, I think there's one thing that we can all agree on, and that is that when ECF goes the way we want it in a morning, we're like, yes. You found like the perfect parking spot for yourself. The coffee at the Hilton tastes just the way you want it to taste. The music is not so loud that it blows you away, but it is loud enough that it's spiritual for you. The sermon goes just long enough that you're like, oh, I wish you would have gone just a little bit longer. You go to pick up your kids over in the kids ministry and they haven't injured themselves. They haven't abused another child. They haven't destroyed Hilton property in any way. And they seem excited. And you ask them, what did you learn today? And they give you more than just Jesus. They actually know what they were learning that day. I think all of us would agree that when things go like that, we're like, yes, this is so good. In fact, for many people, they would say that would be the definition of a good church. How many would say that's the definition of a good church if everything sort of went that way for us? All right, now, before you clap too much. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with any of those things that I just mentioned. But here is the tension that we all face. When the church exists only to serve you and to meet your needs, then something is really, really wrong. Not just in how we as leadership have structured the church, but something is really wrong for you spiritually. It indicates a lack of spiritual maturity in your life. What it indicates is maybe that you are following Jesus, but you haven't yet been changed by Jesus, and you're definitely not yet on the mission of Jesus. You see, a part of being changed by Jesus is you shift your mindset from I need to be served to now I'm going to start to serve other people. You shift your mindset from I'm coming into ECF to be a consumer to I'm coming to ECF to now be a contributor of helping other people come to follow Jesus, be changed by Jesus, and on the mission of Jesus. But that shift does not happen accidentally. That's something we as a church body and each of us individually need to be very, very intentional about. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today as we continue our series called The Way Down. Now, in case you missed last week, in week 1, we had a big thought for the day, but it was also our big thought for the entire series. Let's see if you remember it, that the way down is what? Who remembers? The way down is the way, it's the way forward, right? That if we want to be great in God's eyes, it's not about climbing the ladder of success. The way down, the way of servanthood, of getting on our knees and washing people's feet if need be. It's the way down, it is the way forward. And here's what I want to say as we get started, and that is we as ECF are so blessed. That you can't applaud for. That's not a trick question, right? We are so blessed here in what God is doing in our midst. You know, 3.5 years ago, or actually 4.5 years ago, he was here for 3.5 years, but 4.5 years ago or so, Pastor Steve arrived to 12 people. That was ECF, 12 people at the time. And over in a 3.5 year period, with God's help, with your help, ECF grew from 12 to about 120. And I started June 1st, so I guess this is another date that, what is this, the start of my 8th month here, I guess? We have gone from an average of about 120 on Sundays now to almost 200 every Sunday in just, 8 months, right? God is doing things, but it's more than just numeric growth. It's not that we're just getting bigger numerically, we're growing deeper spiritually. A lot of you have caught the vision that we are about disciples making disciples who make disciples who make disciples, that it's not Gilbert's job, it's not the staff's job, it's not our council's job, it's all of our jobs. We are all to be going out and making disciples who make disciples who make disciples who make disciples, at least to the 4th generation. That's what it's about. Many of you are catching that vision. Where's Josiah at? Josiah? There, stand up, Josiah. So I've been trying to model this myself, of that we need to be in one-on-one relationships. And so I've got now, well, I just added another one this week. So I got 11 guys right now that I'm discipling one-on-one, not in a group, individually, one-on-one. Josiah's one of these guys. Just run up here quick. This is amazing. Give him a big hand. We started maybe my second month here, something like that. Yeah. And Josiah is just like, he is so hungry for Jesus. And he is changing, and he is growing in his faith. And about 12 weeks ago or so, you started a Bible study at your work.
Yes, sir.
And it's been growing and growing and growing. And you get maybe 18, 20 or so people every week now. And at his work, during work hours, they're allowing him, right? Is Rudy here today? Where's Rudy at?
He's in the back.
He's behind the, Rudy, come up here. We're just having everybody come up. Hurry up and take your time. You're cutting into my time. I'm watching the time tick here. Come on. Rudy is Josiah's boss. All right? And a lot of people think that to make a difference for the kingdom of God is, oh, you have to become a pastor, you have to become a missionary. But no, you need to be the best you that you've been called to be. And you know what God has called Rudy to do? To be the absolute best business owner here in Costa Rica that he possibly can, right? And to employ a lot of people and to teach Christian values at his company. And so when Josiah said, hey, I would like to do this like little Bible study stuff, you said, absolutely. Yeah, right? But here's the cool thing. So you started it like 10, 12 weeks ago or whatever, and you've been doing some things at the office for many years, right? But this Friday night, a lot of people at the office and others were going, hey, let's do something outside of work time. They had an event on Friday night. They had 90 people show up. 90 people. He just started getting discipled a couple months ago. Average, ordinary people, disciples making disciples. So Rudy disciples Josiah. I've been discipling Josiah. And he has a heart that it's not just about following Jesus. It's not just about being changed by Jesus. We've got to be on the mission of Jesus. But it wasn't just 90 people that showed up. 5 of them prayed to receive Jesus, to forgive them of their sins, and to be the leader of their lives. See, this is what I'm talking about. God is doing something great in our midst. And these are just a couple of the stories. There's so many other stories. You guys can have a seat. Give them another big hand here. I can't get into all the details of it, but I had a dinner this past Tuesday night or Wednesday night, I think it was, with one of the guys. And God just did a miracle with a waitress that we encountered. It was a divine appointment. And earlier, like when I said to the person, I was like, hey, let's go out and get something to eat. I just had like this intense desire for chicken wings. And I don't know why. I just had this, I was like, we've got to go get wings. Well, the reason we had to go get wings is because we had to meet this young girl at this restaurant. And again, I can't get into all the details for some confidentiality purposes, but it was just such an amazing divine encounter. And they're speaking Spanish back and forth to each other, and they're like hugging each other and crying and stuff. And I'm like, yes, I had no idea what's happening. But it was so obvious that God was doing something there in their midst. So this whole idea of discipleship, it's taking root. And this whole idea that we're not just called here in Santana or to the Central Valley, but Jesus said we're to go to our Jerusalem, our Judea, our Samaria, to the utmost ends of the earth. I was together yesterday with 8 people from ECF, and we went up to Irazu to hike. Why? Because they wanted to get acclimated to doing work at higher elevations. Why? Because in 3 weeks, they're leaving for Peru. 8 people from here at ECF getting ready to go to Peru to continue to share the love of Jesus with more and more and more people. So God is doing something. There are many signs that we are a healthy church. Again, it's amazing what God is doing, but here's something that we need to understand. If you're taking notes here today, here's the first thing we're going to look at, that every growing church experiences drift. Every growing church experiences drift. What do I mean by that? We don't drift into doing more. We tend to drift as human beings into doing less. We drift into convenience. We drift into comfort. We drift into not contributing, we drift to becoming consumers again because we think that, well, we're getting bigger, and so that means that other people can do the work and I can just come in and do what I want to do. Now, the reason that we drift isn't because people are bad. It's because of this. People are people everywhere you go. Doesn't matter where you go in the world, people are people everywhere. And it's a part of our human sinful nature to sort of drift into doing a little bit less, to drift into being lazy, to drift into asking, okay, what's in it for me? But guess what? None of this caught Jesus by surprise, which is why we read so much in the Gospels about Jesus reminding his followers over and over and over and over again of a very uncomfortable truth. Now, these aren't the words of Jesus. This is sort of how I'm paraphrasing all of Jesus' teaching on this topic. So here it is on your outline. That following Jesus is not about sitting and soaking it all in. It's about stepping into the work. You aren't supposed to come to ECF just to sit and to soak. You are supposed to come to ECF so that you can step into the work that God is doing. And so Jesus does something quite fascinating in John chapter 10. He gathers together his followers. Now, remember, how many disciples did Jesus have? I've taught you this before. How many did he have? The answer is we don't know. He had a lot of disciples. He had 12 apostles. So that's why some of you are shouting out 12. So these are the 12 leaders of what would become the church. But he had hundreds of disciples. And here's what we read in Luke chapter 10, verse 1. The Lord now chose what? The Lord now chose, can we get that up there, Rachel? There we go, thank you. The Lord now chose 72 other disciples, and he sent them ahead in pairs to all the towns and places they planned to visit. Now, in this verse and in other verses that we read throughout the Gospels, what we're seeing is Jesus is taking all these guys and gals that he's been training, and he starts to send them out to do the work. He's like, look, you've heard me preach and teach. You've seen me cast out demons. You've seen me heal the sick. Now you go do it. I'm giving you my authority. Now you go and preach and teach. Now you go and cast out the demons. Now you heal the lame and you heal the blind and the mute and the deaf. You do all that. You go out and now you start to serve the poor and the homeless and those that think that God wouldn't want to have anything to do with them. You go out and share with them that no, that's not true. You matter to God and you matter to me as well. Jesus says, now you go and do it. And I want you to notice he says, do it now. Not when you feel ready, not when you think you can answer all the questions, not when you feel qualified. He says, do it and do it right now. I'm giving you my authority, now you go. And the question is, why was this Jesus' strategy? Well, it's quite simple. Your spiritual growth, and everybody listen here, I need you to get this. Your spiritual growth does not happen best by coming and hearing Gilbert preach a sermon. As much as I would want to have pride and think that I can do that for you, that's not it at all. Now, I hope that you do grow by hearing sermons, but that's not how you're going to grow the most significantly. You're also not going to go to. The church is people, average, ordinary, everyday people like you and like me, that when we do what God has created us to do and we do it together, that's the church. And here's the part that's amazing. Jesus says, you will actually do even greater things than I myself did. Now think about that. The amazing things that Jesus did. He says, you as the church, we as ECF can do even greater things than he did when we work together. But it takes all of us working together, not just some of us working together, because together we represent him. Together we can do greater things. And so the Apostle Paul, he's like, how can I help people to understand what this is all about of working together as the church? And so he comes up with a metaphor, and we read about it in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Look at verse 14. Paul says, as you know, the human body is not made up of only one part, but what? Made up of many parts, right? And so Paul then does something a little bit humorous. He goes on, he says, you know what if the foot were to say, because I'm a foot and not a hand, I'm not a part of the body? Could you imagine that? What if your foot said, because I'm not a hand, I'm not a part of the body? That'd be ridiculous, wouldn't it? And he says, imagine if your ear said, because I'm not an eye, well, I don't want to have anything to do with you. We're different. We have different purposes, so I don't even want to have anything to do. That would be ridiculous. And then Paul says, here's what's really ridiculous. He says, what if the entire body were just a big eyeball? I mean, imagine that. What if it was just one big eyeball? Paul's point is this: we need all of the parts of the body, not just one part of the body or some parts of the body, in order to fully operate in the ways that God has designed us. And so if that makes sense of our physical bodies, Paul says it's the same way with the church. We together as ECF, we are the body of Christ. I said this earlier, ECF is not just Gilbert. ECF is not just our staff. ECF is not just our council. ECF is not just our ministry leaders. ECF is all of us. We are all ECF, and we all need to do what God has called us to do. There's no single role that is unimportant. There is no single person who is unnecessary. An ECF where only some people are serving is a dysfunctional ECF. An ECF where only some people are serving is not operating at our full potential. An ECF that where only some people are serving is not the picture of Jesus that he wants us to represent to the Central Valley and throughout Costa Rica and all around the world. You see, when you're not serving, all of us suffer because we're not the full body that we've been called. Now, I've been sharing this with you over the past 8 months. God has given us an amazing vision for what he wants us to do together to reach not just this area, but throughout all of Costa Rica and all around the world as well. And I envision that we're not just a church here in Santana with just one service and people that are making disciples who make disciples who make disciples, but we're doing such a good job at that we have to go to 2 services on a Sunday morning here in the Hilton in order to reach all the people that we're reaching. But I envision us not just having 2 services here. I envision us saying, we can't be here anymore. We're out of space. So we need to either buy a building or we need to build a building, and we actually have a home for ECF. Now, again, that's not the church. That's just the building. We are the church. But I envision that for us to have that, whether it's here in Santana or in Escazú or in the area. But I envision that building not just being something that's for us. I envision it being a training center. It's a hub where we're sending others out to go and be missionaries throughout all the 7 provinces of Costa Rica, to be missionaries throughout all the world. That we're utilizing that space that God gives us in the future, not for us to sit and soak, but for us to really step into the work. I mean, what God is doing right now, all the amazing things, that is just a small drop in the ocean of what God wants to do in and through us. The best truly is yet to come. But listen, that's never gonna happen without you stepping up and serving. Now, let me be very, very clear here. I'm not talking about just filling volunteer spots. Talking about all of us partnering together in alignment with how God has designed each and every one of you individually so that we can all fulfill what he's asking us to do corporately. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do today. The invitation isn't for you to sign up to do ministries today. That's not the invitation. You're going, I think that's where it's going. He wants us to serve, right? Yes, I do, but I'm not asking you to sign up for anything today. What I want you to do is be curious. I just want you to have a spirit of curiosity today of what would it potentially look like for me to serve at ECF? What would that look like for me? And to help you to do that, I want to introduce something new to your vocabulary, and it's something that we're calling first serves. Can everybody say that with me? First serves. Do it again. First serves. What a first serve is instead of you signing up to be a part of one of our ministries, we're going to give you an opportunity to sign up to try out anywhere from 1 to 3 different ministries. So So right now we have 11 ministries here at ECF. And what will happen in a first serve, you're gonna look through the list and you're gonna be able to sign up to do some first serves. And all you're gonna do on a first serve, let's say that you checked off that you're interested like in children's ministry, you're interested in the welcome team, and you're interested in, say, translation, okay? That's the 3 that you chose. You will get an invitation then to do a first serve. And so one week you'll go in and you'll be in the children's ministry. Not to volunteer that day, but just simply to observe what is going on, to learn the expectations, to learn a little bit more of the culture of what happens in there. And then maybe it's the next week that you do your first serve out in the translation ministry. And you're not there to translate or to do anything. You're just there to watch and observe what they do, get to know the team and what it is that has to happen in order to make everything happen so that people can get translation. And then what was the other one I said? Welcome team, yeah. So our ministry leader for the welcome team, he's like, yeah, welcome. So what Rory and his team will do is have you not be a greeter, not be an usher, not be a counter, and a first serve, all they're gonna have you do is just shadow somebody else to walk around to see what happens with that particular team. After you've done all 3 of your first serves, then you'll decide, hey, one of these is what I'd actually like to be a part of on a regular basis, whether it's every single week or every other week or once a month or whatever it works for you, but you'll be able to now actually participate in the ministry. Again, today we're just talking about curiosity. Eventually we do want you and all of you to participate in one of our ministries, but you're gonna do your first serves first. You're going, what if after the 3, I didn't like any of them? Do some more first serves, sign up again, check the boxes, 1 to 3 more. Keep trying and doing first serves until you discover the one that you go, okay, that's where God would have me to serve here at ECF. And so when you're doing your first serve, you need to observe, you need to ask a lot of questions, and you need to learn the culture before you say yes to actually participating with it. Now, let me also say this. This is sort of a try before you buy, so to speak. Does that make sense? A try before you buy approach to serving, that you're not committing for the rest of your life. You're committing just to do a first serve and to see if that may lead to something else. But here's a little bit of a word of caution for you when you do that. There's gonna be some areas where it's not gonna be obvious what you should do. And actually, before I go any further, let's go ahead and, Rach, if we can get that up there. We're gonna put a QR code here on the screen for you, and you see the website. So get your phones out, go ahead and scan the QR code. That's gonna take you right to a page that talks about what we're doing here at ECF and how you can serve. It's gonna give you a list of all the different ministries that we have, and it's right there that you can just click the boxes, and you're able to, you'll get an email as soon as you hit the submit that says that you got confirmation, and then Jen, our administrator, will help get you up on the schedule for things. But I want you guys to start scanning that so you can start knowing a little bit more. But we want you to find a place where you can serve with joy and consistency and impact, not just feel like you're just a warm body filling a slot. But to do that, realize that there are some ministries that you may not think that you're qualified for, or you may not think that there's opportunities for you that there actually are. So let me use an example of the translation again. Some of you are going, oh, I don't speak Spanish. Others of you are going, I don't speak English, so I couldn't be a translator. But actually doing that form of translation is only a small part of what the translation team does. There are other roles within the translation team. In fact, one of them is coming in on Sunday mornings and getting it set up. We got to get all of our equipment here to communicate with all the equipment that's out in the hallway for the translation team to be able to do what they do. So it's not a hard role, but it is a role that, it takes half hour, 45 minutes that somebody needs to come in and do the setup for that. So you possibly don't even speak English or Spanish, but you could serve on that team by being a part of the setup. Or let's say, since Rory's going, come on, give me another example. he has set up that there's banners that need to be set up, and so there's the sign-ins, that's a pretty easy role that people can do. There's that children's ministry. There's setup that needs to be done in children's ministry. There's the check-ins that the kids have to go through. So you don't even have to work with the kids necessarily. You just have to work with the parents of getting them checked in, get the name tags and all that kind of stuff. So all of our ministries have different things like that. I'll get killed if I don't mention like the worship team and the tech team, right, that are in here. Like, it's a lot to do what needs to be done every week, set up and tear down. And so you could come in and be a part of the setup team. You could come in and be a part of the tear down team. You're going, I can't sing, I can't play an instrument. Well, again, you could be a part of the worship team by doing some of these other roles that need to be done. So again, continue to scan the QR code, continue to go there to ecfcr.net/serve, and you'll be able to sign up for your first serves. What I'm saying is, do not disqualify yourself because you think, oh, there wouldn't be anything for me. If it sounds interesting, go ahead, check the box. Do a first serve with them and see if they have an opportunity for you to do something. As I wrap up today, let me say this. We started today Jesus' ministry. It's at the end of Jesus' ministry, but we started today with him sending out the 72, right? So he's sending out, he says, look, I'm giving you my authority now. You go and do it. You go and serve. And that's what I'm saying to you here today, is it's your job now to go and serve. It's not Gilbert's job. I got my role to play. It's a unique role. But it's all of our jobs to get out and serve. And so in the same way that Jesus sent out 72, I'm sending you guys out to serve, not just on Sunday mornings, but serve and do ministry throughout the Central Valley and beyond, Monday through Saturday as well. And then Jesus gives the reason why. After he sends them out, he says this. Look at Luke chapter 10, verse 2. He says, the harvest is great, but the workers are what? The workers are few. My former boss, Rick Warren, said it this way. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are sitting in the pews. Now, we don't have pews, we have chairs, but you get the point, right? Every single one of you, every single person online there, you need to be serving here at ECF in some way. And Jesus says this, keep it there, Rach, for us, Luke 10:2. The harvest is great, but the workers are few, so pray to the Lord who is in charge of the harvest. Ask him to send more workers into his fields. And that has been my prayer ever since I got here 8 months ago. But especially my prayers we've been preparing for this series. That God, the harvest, what you're doing here is amazing, but the harvest of what you want to do through ECF is so much bigger. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And so I've been praying and asking him to stir in your heart to say, you know what? I'm not coming to ECF anymore just to simply be a consumer. I'm coming to ECF so I can be a contributor in what it is that God is doing. So today, again, I'm asking you to be curious about what a partnership together would look like so that together we can advance God's kingdom and make a kingdom difference. And I want you to imagine if ECF was filled with people who don't just attend but engage, who don't just consume but contribute. People who do understand that in the kingdom of God, the way down, the way of service is the way forward in your individual life, and it's the way forward for us as a church body. And so today and this week, continue to sign up for your first serves. And then next week, join us as we wrap up the series. And I want to talk to you about how when you serve, not only does it help ECF, but the biggest beneficiary is you. You are going to change so much when you actually get in the game. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. Get in the game. When you start to serve, it is a game changer for you. It's a part of now being changed by Jesus because you're on the mission of Jesus. All right, let's pray.